Hey guys, it's Chris here. Today I want to do up a video about some of the questions I ask myself before I invest in a stock. So in a number of the recent videos I've talked about some of the more quantitative metrics that you can use to try and value a stock, and by quantitative I mean like the numbers, whether that's P ratio, book ratios, or enterprise value to EBITDA ratios, and the numbers and looking at the past to try and work out whether a company is a good investment or not based on numbers. But at the end of the day you are buying a business and you want to take into account some of the qualitative factors. So by qualitative factors, you want to start looking at the company as a business in itself, as something that provides value to the world and offer products and services to the world. And you want to start asking yourself some questions about, will these products be valuable in the future? Are they valuable today? Do you see the industry growing, shrinking, stuff like that? So there's a lot of questions you can ask yourself and a lot of research you can do to better understand that company and that industry and how it fits in an economy. So one of the first questions I usually ask pretty early on when I'm assessing a company is, do I believe that this company will still exist in 10 years' time? Another quick question I'll often ask and do some quick research on is, how long has this company existed for already, both in a private state and a public state? Next, I might ask myself, do I believe their products and services offer real value to the world? So in that sense, do I believe that in the future, people will still be buying their products and services? Then often before I invest in any business, I have to ask myself the tough question of, do I currently or can I understand this business and how this business works and how they make money and understand that industry? Then I'll often move on to topics like, do I believe this company will grow with the economy? So if the broad economy grows, will this company be the sort of company that will be able to expand with it, and will people spend more money on these products and services as their disposable incomes increase, or is there a limit to how big this company can be within an economy? So one of those questions that you might want to answer is the industry itself growing, and is the industry growing faster than nominal GDP? And then on top of that, you might ask yourself, is the company within that industry that you're looking to invest in growing at the same rate as the other companies in that industry, or hopefully growing faster than the other companies in the industry? In addition to, can this company defend its market share, you want to ask yourself, can this company defend its profit margins and defend its pricing, or will it come under threat from competitors? You might want to look at in the industry itself, are there barriers to entry to starting up a business in this industry? Is it, you need a lot of capital to start up? Are customers already captured? Does this company have existing intellectual property or patents that allow it to defend its market share or stop other people from entering into that industry? Or does this company have some sort of sustainable competitive advantage that other competitors may not have, whether that was a first mover advantage or a big brand or a logistics hub that is very difficult to replicate? There's a lot of things that can become sustainable competitive advantages, and this gives a company the ability to protect those profit margins over the long run. So these are the sort of things you want to do some research about and answer these questions. On the flip side, you might want to ask yourself, is this a highly competitive industry where profit margins and profits themselves and revenues are often under attack? In a sense, is there a lot of new entrants into the industry? Are there low barriers to entry? Is it potentially disruptible with new technologies, or all these sort of things that could, make a company worth significantly less in the long run? You might want to answer that and understand the dynamics and the new entrants and the competitiveness of that industry. You might want to know whether that company is operating in a highly regulated industry. Is government heavily involved? Are there licensing issues? Are they very dependent on one or two customers? You want to start thinking about the effect that regulation can have on that industry. It can both be a benefit and a disadvantage to be in a highly regulated industry, in the sense that it can be a good barrier to entry, but at the same time it could be a much higher risk, because if those regulations are changed or go against the company, there's much higher potential for that stock to drop in value or the future profits of that company to be diminished. You might want to ask yourself what other business risks might be at play in that industry. Is that an industry that competes globally or just locally? If this company does compete globally, you might want to consider questions like, what effect does currency have on the profitability of this company? if you think a currency is overvalued and does most of its production locally and exports are a big part of its business, then hopefully if the currency goes down, that would increase the profitability of that company. You might even want to consider things like interest rates and how they may affect the company. You might also want to consider how much debt is being carried within that company. And if it's got a lot of debt, then you might want to consider how stable the cash flows of that company. Ask yourself questions about how big an impact would an increase of interest rates of 1, 2, or 3% have on that company, or if you believe interest rates are going to come down over the next couple of years, and this company would do well in an environment where there was a slowing economy, which would be a reason why interest rates would come down. You might want to look at the effect that that might have and ask yourself those questions and do some scenario planning on those situations. Another question you might want to ask is, what sort of operational leverage does the company have, in the sense that does it have a lot of fixed costs that are sunk and will continue to have to be spent irrespective of what the revenue of the company is, in the sense that if there's a slowdown, it could massively hurt profit margins, and on the flip side, if there's a pickup, they might have massive increase in profits and profit margins. So is it more of a boom-bust industry because there's a lot of sunk costs and fixed costs that can't be adjusted based on the demand dynamics? So considering the operational leverage in addition to the financial leverage can just give you an idea of what sort of risk there might be to this company in this industry. Another thing you might want to analyze when it comes to a company and its income statement and its balance sheet is, what is the company doing with its profits? Are they reinvesting those profits? You might want to ask yourself, is this the sort of company that's able to take those excess profits and pay them out as dividends? Or is this the sort of company that needs to reinvest them into capital expenditure to continue operating? If the company is the sort of company that does like to retain its earnings and reinvest them back in the business, are those earnings being invested within that business and producing a similarly high return on equity as the previous capital that's being invested, or are you getting diminishing marginal returns on the additional dollars being invested in that business? So you might ask yourself, is the profitability of the company scalable? These are the sorts of questions I like to ask myself before I invest in any stock, and there's a lot more that you could ask yourself as well. And the more you can understand the business, the more likely you are to make prudent and sound investments. So be sure to try to answer as many of these sorts of questions as possible, and I'm sure you probably have more of your own, and if you do, please put them in the comments below. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe and like it, and if you have any further questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll see you in the next video.